All right, so it was bound to happen eventually. I bought the wrong TV, and I know with what I do here, it would seem that that wasn't a thing that would happen. And I was so confident that I was going to love this TV too. I did all my research. I love the brand. I love the specs, love the reported brightness. I was all in on this like mystery set that I'm talking about here. But after having it for 3 weeks, I packed it up and I returned it for its competitor that didn't get quite as bright. It was worse for gaming and it had worse sound, but it did cost $500 less. But even if you remove those savings, I would still make that decision 10 out of 10 times. But there is one specific scenario where I would completely reverse that decision and tell you to spend the extra money. So today, in this video, we're gonna be talking about TCL versus Hisense. And these are two brands that are embarrassing TVs twice their price, both somewhere in that kind of $500 to $2,000 price range where I think most people are actually shopping. And by the end of this video, you will know exactly which one belongs in your living room, because I'm going to tell you the one question that you need to ask yourself before you buy any of these and really any other TV in the future. But first, let me tell you about the TV that I returned. All right, so this TV that I returned was the Hisense U8QG. And when this thing showed up at my door, I was pretty excited. Hisense has been dramatically improving their entire lineup every single year, especially like their Hisense U8N mini LED from last year. I really like that TV. This year's U8QG claimed 5,000 nits of peak brightness, which sounds completely fake, like marketing department. Kind of fake. Real world testing showed around 3,300 to 4,000 nits, kind of depending on the settings that you were in, which is still extremely bright. That's like OLED level of brightness, and those cost twice as much. So in my living room, if you've like watched my videos before, you know that I talk a lot about how bright my living room gets. Get lots of sunlight, seemed perfect for a TV like this. And when I turned on the U8QG, I was really impressed. The colors were vibrant, the brightness cut through every single reflection in the room, no matter what I threw at it. Nature documentaries, Dune, HDR clips, everything looked bright and punchy. This thing was clearly a beast for bright rooms. It also checked a lot of boxes with gaming. It had 165Hz refresh rate, FreeSync Premium Pro. Input lag was about 12 milliseconds. The motion looked smooth. The response felt pretty immediate. Plus it had 3 HDMI 2.1 ports, so I can hook up, 2 consoles and a sound bar instead of just needing a switcher. And this really was a testament to Hisense. This was them finally getting really good at what they used to be pretty mediocre at. For years, Hisense was so hit or miss with their sets. They were always priced very well, but the performance was a bit of a mixed bag, kind of depending on which model and year that you got. But Hisense has been stacking some W's lately, and my first impressions of the U8QG were actually really good. But then I started watching it at night, and this was like a first for me with TVs. I had to actually turn the TV's brightness down twice. For 2 different reasons. One was that it was just actually too bright. I was watching it like at 100%. Even throwing it like in filmmaker mode, it just felt a tad too bright for my taste when like all the lights were off. And that's like the first time that that's ever happened to me when it comes to like testing TVs. The other reason was that it was losing a lot of detail in really bright highlights when everything was kind of like cranked to the max. But setting that brightness down to about like 80%, that really helped the TV feel a lot more balanced, and it recovered a lot of that highlight detail. That same brightness that was a huge advantage for the U8QG during the day actually started becoming a problem for it at night. And I know how ridiculous it is to be complaining about a TV that's like too bright. Like it's literally the big thing that reviewers like me have been shouting from our soapboxes, telling TV companies that we need brighter and brighter sets. And when they finally give us what we've been asking for, we start complaining about that too. And I get it, like we're pretty insufferable that way. Now, if you primarily watch TVs in like super ultra bright rooms mostly, then you're going to love all of that extra brightness headroom. Just don't push it too hard, because like you could lose a lot of like highlight detail in those like specular highlights. But internally, there was something about like leaving the TV at 80% brightness that like kind of bugged me, because by just about every objective measure, this is a really great TV. The picture looks vibrant, it looks really punchy, great design, has good port selection, great gaming features, great processing. It's just too bright for my needs. So yeah, I reluctantly packed up the Hisense U8QG and returned it, and instead picked up a TV that, at least on paper, was worse, but it saved me $500, and that was the TCL QM7K. Now, walking into this purchase, I knew that the QM7K, it just wasn't gonna be as bright as the Hisense. On paper, it loses that battle like pretty clearly. It claims 3000 nits, but real world testing showed it pretty close to that. It could sustain around 2500 nits depending on the mode. Now, I understand that that is not dim by any measure, but it's certainly more dim than the 4000 nits that the Hisense was putting out. But it was certainly bright enough for my room, and I think for most people's rooms. I also knew that the QM7K only had 2 HDMI 2.1 ports instead of 3. And for me, that was a pretty big annoyance because I was looking forward to not having to use a switcher since I have a soundbar and 2 consoles to hook up. But I figured that if the image quality was better in ways that matter to me, then I would just have to deal with it. And almost immediately after I turned on the QM7K, I thought, well, I guess I'm gonna have to sit here and just deal with it because the image looked absolutely amazing straight out of the box. The whole image just felt more balanced. Colors were vibrant, contrast was really great, lots of detail in the specular highlights and really good shadow detail. And this is where I think TCL's hidden superpower comes into play. It's with their local dimming zones, more specifically their local dimming algorithms. Now, local dimming zones refers to sections of the TV's backlight that can dim independently from one another. Basically, higher the dimming zones means better contrast and more precision. That's how you get those sort of deep blacks sitting right next to bright highlights without that glow sort of spilling over into those deep blacks. However, local dimming algorithms refer to how a company will use those dimming zones to create contrast in their image. Now, those algorithms tend to be pretty unique between TV manufacturers, so not all dimming zones are going to be created equal. For the 65-inch version of the TCL QM7K, you're looking at just under around 1,000 local dimming zones, and that's half of the local dimming zones as the 65-inch version of the Hisense U8QG. But despite that, in person, the shadows and the contrast simply looked better on the TCL. Now, why is that? Now, it's partially because the TCL just simply doesn't have the raw brightness power that the Hisense does, but it's also because of TCL's local dimming algorithm. They are giving a superior image quality in ways that you can't always express on a spec sheet. You know what I mean? Because on paper, the U8QG, it's more nits, more dimming zones, more ports, but sometimes more doesn't equal better. It just equals more. On the QM7K, the processor, it just felt smoother. Motion looked cleaner during action scenes and gaming, and nothing felt like it was trying too hard. Just a balanced image that didn't call attention to itself. So I think the lesson here is like the spec sheets don't always reveal like the whole truth, and you need to kind of see these sets in person if you want to get the best sense of what will work best for you. But there is one thing that you need to take into account when it comes to buying a new set, and more often than not, it's the last thing that people are thinking about. So I kind of mentioned it earlier, but during the day, my living room is a complete nightmare. It's got south-facing windows, sun pouring in from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m., reflections on literally everything. That's largely why I watch TV mostly at night. I mean, like, also, like, I have a toddler. Sometimes after school, the TV gets hijacked by Danny Go. Like, if you know, you know. But I do occasionally watch, TV during the day, football games on weekends, stuff like that. But it's like seasonal and it's not very often. But I did promise you that I would tell you the one question that you need to answer before you buy any of these TVs, or really any TV for that matter. And that's, what time of day do you actually watch your TV? If you've watched my videos before, you know that I preach this concept of being mindful about where your TV will be placed and what the lighting conditions will be when you're mostly watching that TV. It seems like such like a simple and obvious observation. You would think that most people would think about these kind of things, but you would be surprised how many don't. Now, if you watch TV at night in a dark room with controlled lighting, just save the money and get the TCL QM7K. It's got great contrast, it's got a better local dimming algorithm, and an amazing image quality for around $500 less. And if you're gaming in that dark room, TCL's better motion handling and deeper blacks are going to make everything look better, especially in darker games. Now, if you primarily watch during the day in a really bright room with windows and sunlight beating down, then the Hisense is gonna be the way to go. That brightness isn't just a marketing gimmick, it's solving a real problem. And for daytime gaming or sports, that extra brightness keeps everything really punchy and vibrant, even when you can't control the light. And if you do both, you just watch TV all day long, then it comes down to which one you're going to do more. I'm primarily a night watcher, so TCL was gonna be the obvious choice for me. And if I watch it during the day, I can just like draw the curtains if I need to. But if I was somebody who watched TV primarily during the day and almost never at night, I would absolutely have gone with the Hisense. It really is that simple. Okay, now real quick before we go, let's talk real numbers, because all of this is gonna sound really great in theory, but you need to know what you're actually spending. The TCL QM7K, the one that's kind of sitting in my living room right now, runs around $1,000 to $1,300 depending on the time of year. TCL does offer higher, sort of like more premium models, the QM8K and the QM9K, but you're sort of getting into those OLED level pricing with those sets. You also have the QM6K, which sits right below the QM7K, but you're gonna lose out a little bit of brightness with that set. The QM7K just kind of sits in that sweet spot for value and performance. The Hisense U8QG has an MSRP of $2,200 for the 65-inch, but it's like typically on sale. I found it for $1,500, but I've seen it dip below $1,400 in the past. So if you're leaning towards the Hisense, do not pay full MSRP. Just wait for a sale, because they do happen all the time. And this TV is worth getting. And I know it might sound like I'm kind of like bashing Hisense in this video, but that could not be further from the truth. It is an incredible set. I'm glad that they made it. I'm glad that it's as bright as it is. It just was outside of the needs for me. And also I did mention kind of like earlier in the video, but the Hisense's U8N mini LED from last year, also really excellent. If you're not convinced by TCL and you want a Hisense, but you don't want the U8QG's sort of like sheer brightness, then the U8N might be the best bet for you. Its price per performance is really incredible. But after all that, here's kind of the main reason why I wanted to talk about all this, because it's becoming increasingly common that like the right TV isn't just about the features, it's about the things that you don't always think about. It's about how companies are finessing algorithms, and it's about getting the most value for what you actually need, which is determined by things like your room, your viewing habits, and your budget, not just specs on a website. The Hisense U8QG is legitimately a better TV for bright rooms. The TCL QM7K is a better TV for dark rooms. They're just built for different environments, and once you know your environment, the decision makes itself. Day or night, bright or dark, answer that and you will know which one that you need to buy. Good thing for you is that you got this lesson for free in a YouTube video. You didn't have to go out and spend $1,500 by mistake. So let me know in the comments which one you're gonna be interested in and why, or what other TVs that you're also looking at. And if this helps you, it'd be really great if you could hit that subscribe button. I'm trying to make it to 1 million, just sort of as a personal goal. And while you're down there, there's also a like button that you could hit as well. Maybe if we do that, more people can see this video so we can help them avoid making the same expensive mistake that I did. But as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.